Oh, hello, great readers. I'm Bo Chan.
I'm Nimacum.
I'm Van Chan.
In this class, I'll read to all of you a part of Ulysses,
Bess,
L.
Ulysses, James Joyce. 16 Sec 13. One thing I never understood. He said to be urging it on the spur of the moment. Why they put tables upside down at night. I mean chairs upside down. On the tables in calves. To sweep the floor in the morning. So saying he skipped around. Thimbly considering. Frankly at the same time apologetic to get on his companion's right. A habit of his. By the by. His right side being, in classical idiom, his tender Achilles. The night was certainly now a treat to breathe, though Stephen was a bit weak on his spins. It will they do good, Bloom said, meaning also the walk, in a moment. The only thing is to walk, then you'll feel a different man. Thumb. It's not far. We mummery. Accordingly he passed his left arm in Stephen's right and led him on accordingly. Yes. Stephen said on, certainly, because he thought he felt a strange kind of flesh of it. Different men approach him. Silas and Wadley and all that. Anyhow they passed the sentry box with stones. Brazy, etc. With the municipal supernumerary. Excomni. Was still to all intents and purposes wrapped in the arms of Murphy. As the adage has it, dreaming of fresh fields and pastures new. And apropos of coughing of stones, the analogy was not at all bad as it was in fact a stoning to death on the part of 72 out of 80. Odd constituencies that arrived at the time of the split, and chiefly the bloated peasant. The last, probably this same evicted tenants he had put in their holdings. So they turned on to chatting about music, a form of art for which Blim, as a pure amateur, possessed the greatest love. As they made tracks arm in arm across Besford Place, Wagnerian music, though confessedly grand in its way, was a bit too heavy for Blim and hard to follow at the first go off. But the music of Mercadant's Huguenots, Marlborough's 7 Last Woods and the Cross and Mozart's 12th Mass he simply revelled in. The glory in that being, to his mind, the acme of first-class music as such, literally knocking everything else into a cocked hat. He infinitely preferred the sacred music of the Catholic Church to anything the opposite shop. Could have in that line such as those moody and Sankey hymns all bid me to live, and I will live thy Protestant to be. He also yielded to none in his admiration of Rossney's Stabat Mater, a work simply abounding in immortal numbers, in which his wife, Madame Marion Tweedy, made a hit, a veritable sensation, he might safely say, greatly adding to her the laurels and putting the others totally in the shade. In the Jesuit Father's Church in Upper Gardiner Street, the sacred edifice being thronged to the doors to hear her with virtuosos, or virtuosi rather, There was the unanimous opinion that there was none to come up to her, and suffice it to say, in a place of worship for music of a sacred character, there was a generally voiced desire for an encore. On the whole, though favouring preferably light upper of the Don Giovanni description in Martha, a gem in its line, he had a penchant, though with only a surface knowledge, for the severe classical school such as Mendelssohn. And talking of that, taking it for granted he knew all about the old favourites, he mentioned par excellence Lionel's air in Martha, Mabry, which, curiously enough, he had heard or overheard, to be more accurate, on yesterday, a privilege he keenly appreciated, from the lips of Stephen's respected father, son to perfection, a study of the number, in fact, which made all the others take a back seat. Stephen, in reply to a politely put query, said he didn't sing it but launched out into praises of Shakespeare's songs, at least of an or about that period. The lutenist Aloud, who lived in Fetter Lane near Gerard the herbalist, who in Aloud and Dohosi, Galandes, an instrument he was contemplating purchasing from Mr. Arnold Almich, whom B. did not quite recall, that the name certainly sounded familiar, for 65 guineas in front of B and son with their ducks and comes concerts in by it. William, who played the virginals, he said, in the Queen's Chapel or anywhere else he found them, and one Tompkins who made to his orders in jumble. On the roadway which they were approaching, while still speaking, beyond the swing chains a horse, dragging a sweeper, paced on the paving ground, brushing a long swat of mire up so that with the noise Bloom was not perfectly certain whether he had caught aright the allusion to 65 guineas and jumble. He inquired if it was John Bull, the political celebrity of that ilk. As it struck him, the two identical names, as a striking coincidence. Our lives are in peril tonight. Beware of the steamroller. They thereupon stopped. Bloom looked at the head of a horse not worth anything like 65 guineas. Suddenly an evidence in the dark quite new, so that it seemed new. A different grouping of bones and even flesh, because palpably it was a walker, a hitchhiker, a black buttocker, a tethingler, a headhanger putting his hind foot foremost the while the lord of his creation sat on the perch, busy with his thoughts. But such a good pubber, he was sorry he hadn't a lump of sugar. But, as he wisely reflected, you could scarcely be prepared for every emergency that might crop up. He was just a big, nervous, foolish, noodly kind of a horse, without a second care in the world. But even a dog, he reflected, take that mongrel and Barney Carnan's, of the same size, would be a holy hurt to face. But it was no animal's fault in particular if he was built that way, like the Cummet, ship of the desert, distilling grapes into potheen in his hemp. 9/10 of them all could be caged or trained. Nothing beyond the art of man barring the bees. Will with a hairpin hairpin. Alligator tickled the small of his back and he seized the joke. Shook a circle for a rooster. Tiger my eagle eye. These timely reflections and the brutes of the field occupied his mind, somewhat distracted from Stephen's words while the ship of the street was manoeuvring, and Stephen went on about the highly interesting old. What's this I was saying? Well, yes. My wife, he intimated, plunging in medias res, would have the greatest of pleasure in making your acquaintance, as she is passionately attached to music of any kind. He looked sideways in a friendly fashion at the side face of Stephen, image of his mother, which was not quite the same as the usual handsome black archetype there unquestionably had. An insatiable hankering after, as he was perhaps not that way built. Still, supposing he had his father's gift, as he more than suspected, it opened up new vistas in his mind, such as Lady Fingal's Irish industries, concert on the preceding Monday, and aristocracy in general. Exquisite variations he was now describing on an Aretha Hazard by Jens Peter Sweelink, a Dutchman of Amsterdam, where the furs come from. Den Diepo and Dichten. These opening words he sang and translated extempore. Vul. Majin. Said he perfectly understood and begged him to go on by all means, which he did. A phenomenally beautiful tenor voice like that, the rarest of boons, which Bloom appreciated at the very first note he got out, could easily, if properly handled by some, recognise the forte on voice production such as Barclough, and being able to read music into the bargain, command its own price where baritones would tend a penny and procure for its fortunate visitor in the near future, and enter into fashionable houses in the best residential quarters of financial magnates in a large way of business, entitled people wherewith his university degree of B. A huge edge in its way, and gentlemanly bring to all the more influence, though good impression, he would infallibly score a distinct success, being blessed with brains which also could be utilised for the purpose and other requisites, if his clothes were properly attended to, so as to the better worm his way into their good graces, as he, a youthful tyro in society's sartorial niceties, hardly understood how a little thing like that could militate against you. It was in fact only a matter of months, and he could easily foresee him participating in their musical and artistic conversations during the festivities of the Christmas season, for choice, causing a slight flutter in the dovecotes of the fair sex, and being made a lot of by ladies out for sensation, cases of which, as he happened to know, were on record. In fact, without giving the show away, he himself once upon a time, if he cared to, could easily have, to which of course would be the pecuniary emolument by no means to be sneezed at, going hand in hand with his tuition fees. Matthew, he parenthesized that for the sake of filthy lucre he need necessarily embrace the lyric platform as, or walk in life for any lengthy space of time, but a step in the required direction it was beyond yea or nay, and both monetarily and mentally it contained no reflection on his dignity in the smallest, and it often turned an uncommonly handy to be handed a cheque at a much needed moment when every little helped. Besides, the taste latterly had deteriorated to a degree. Original music like that, different from the conventional rut, would rapidly have a great vogue as it would be a decided novelty for Dublin's musical world after the usual hackneyed run of catchy tenor solos visited on a confiding public by Ivan St. Austell and Hilton St. Just in their Genesam. Yes. Beyond a shadow of a doubt he could with all the cards in his hand. And he had a capital opening to make a name for himself and win a high place in the city's esteem where he could command a stiff figure and booking ahead. Gave a grand concert for the patrons of the King Street House. Given a back rap. If one were first coming to kick him upstairs. So to speak. A big gift. However, with some impetus of the go-ahead sort to obviate the inevitable procrastination which often dripped up a too much did Prince of Goodfellows. And it need not detract from the other by one iota as, being his own master, he would have heaps of time to practice literature in his spare moments when desirous of so doing without its clashing with his vocal career or containing anything derogatory whatsoever, as it was a matter for himself alone. In fact, he had the ball at his feet, and that was the very reason why the Allure possessed of a remarkably sharp nose for smelling a rat of any sort. On one to Mole. The horse was just then. And later on at a propitious opportunity he proposed boomdid, without any way prying into his private affairs and the full step in Where Angels principle, advising him to sever his connection with a certain budding practitioner who, he noticed, was prone to disparage and even to slight extent with some hilarious pretext one not present, deprecate him, or whatever you like to call it, which in Bloom's humble opinion threw a nasty side light on that side of a person's character. No pun intended. The horse having reached the end of his tether, so to speak, halted and, rearing high a proud feathering tail, I did as quoted by letting fall on the floor which the brush would soon brush up and polish 3 smoking globes of turds, slowly 3 times, one after another, from a full cropper he mired, and humanely his driver waited till he or she had ended, patient in his sights car, side by side Bloom, profiting by the contretemps, with Stephen passed through the gap of the chains, divided by the upright, and stepping over a strand of mire, went across towards Gardiner Street lower, Stephen singing more boldly, but not loudly, the end of the ballad. And Skifbucken. The driver never said a word. Bad or indifferent, but merely watched the 2 figures as he sat on his low-back car, both black, one full, one lean, walk towards the railway bridge to be married by Father Maher. As they walked, they at times stopped and walked again, continuing the act, which, of course, he was utterly out of about sirens, enemies of man's reason, mingled with a number of other topics of the same category, usurpers, historical cases of the kind, while the man in the sweepacaro you might as well call it in the sweepacaro in any case couldn't possibly hear, because they were too far simply sat in his seat near the end of lower Gardiner Street and looked after their low-backed car. To be continued.